In 2007, Chris Tucker was the highest-paid actor in Hollywood. $25 million for a single film. And then he was gone from the screen. There was no scandal, no box office disaster, no goodbye. For almost 20 years, the same question has circled the internet. What happened to Chris Tucker? People blamed the taxman. People blamed a war with the studios. They were chasing the wrong story. Chris Tucker never disappeared. He made a choice, a promise he had made with God long before the money ever arrived. Understand that promise, and the whole mystery falls apart. Before the $25 million contract, before the silence, there was a boy from Decatur, Georgia, raised in a strict Christian home where church was not a suggestion. It was every single week. Chris Tucker grew up doing impersonations at the dinner table, a gift for voices and rhythm that would later become his entire comedic style. He carried that gift to Los Angeles as a young man chasing stand-up, working small clubs, until he landed a spot on HBO's Def Comedy Jam in the early 1990s, the stage that turned unknown black comedians into household names overnight.
Place, man. Hate my neighbors, man. I got neighbors that borrow shit all the time.
From there came his first film credits, a supporting part in House Party 3 and a serious dramatic turn in Dead Presidents, work that showed real range before most of the country knew his face. Then came 1995, and a character named Smokey in the movie Friday. On paper, Smokey was a nobody, a small-time weed dealer with a gold tooth and a laugh that could fill a theater. Somehow that character became a cultural landmark that people still quote 3 decades later. Friday made Chris Tucker bankable. The Fifth Element put him on screen beside Bruce Willis in a $90 million science fiction spectacle. Money Talks paired him with Charlie Sheen and proved he could carry a film with his name at the top. By the late 1990s, Chris Tucker had stopped being a rising comedian. He had become a product, and Hollywood does not let go of a product it can sell. The money climbed. The offers multiplied, and so did the pressure to keep playing Smokey. Every studio wanted the same fast-talking, wild energy that made Friday a hit, and every contract assumed Chris Tucker would hand it over again and again. No questions asked. That assumption was about to run straight into something the industry never saw coming. Look at how fast it all happened. Def Comedy Jam, created by Russell Simmons, had already made Tucker a name inside comedy circles before Hollywood ever noticed him, and it became the training ground for a whole generation of comedians who would define 1990s black entertainment. Even in that crowded, talented room, Tucker's rapid-fire delivery and his ear for mimicry stood out, and directors saw immediately that his energy survived the jump from the stand-up stage to a film set without losing its edge. House Party 3 in 1994 gave him his first real screen exposure, a small role with timing sharp enough to get studios watching. Dead Presidents, directed by the Hughes brothers, put him in dramatic territory and proved his range ran past the punchlines. But it was Friday, directed by F. Gary Gray and written by Ice Cube and DJ Pooh, that rewired everything. Smokey was written as a side character. Tucker's improvisation turned him into the most quoted person in the film, and Friday earned back many times its small budget, becoming one of the defining black comedies of the decade. The Fifth Element followed in 1997, a Luc Besson film with a reported budget north of $90 million, dropping Tucker into a completely different tier of movie making. Money Talks arrived the same year and cemented him as a lead who did not need a co-headliner to open a movie. Agents and studios started building entire release calendars around his schedule. He was 26 years old and already one of the most in-demand comedic actors alive. And it was costing him something. In later interviews, Chris Tucker spoke openly about how the fame of those early years pulled him away from the church that raised him back in Decatur. The industry paid well for a persona built on profanity, drug jokes, and reckless speed, and for a while Tucker leaned into that persona because it was profitable and because everyone expected it. Underneath, a quiet tension was building between what paid his bills and what he had been raised to believe. And the industry was far too busy counting box office returns to ask what its newest star actually believed. Then, in the late 1990s, Chris Tucker made a decision reporters would spend the next 20 years trying to explain. He left Los Angeles and moved to Atlanta, back toward the church roots of his childhood, and he recommitted his life to his Christian faith. There was no press conference, no magazine cover. It happened privately, inside a man who had spent years performing a version of himself built for laughs and profit, and who now wanted something the performance could not give him. Tucker has described that turn himself, most notably in a 2014 interview with the Canadian outlet Straight, where he said that being a Christian actually made his comedy harder and better, because it forced him to dig for material that did not lean on cursing or shock.
I kind of do, you know, and I mean, Ben and my buddy Dave Chappelle, they always joke like, you know everybody, man, you're everywhere. Where are you right now? I'm like, I'm in Saudi Arabia with the king.
That one small comment tells you everything. He was rebuilding his comedy on a new foundation, one that could no longer bend to whatever the industry ordered up. The proof of how deep the change ran came within a year or two of that return to faith, when Ice Cube and the producers of Friday came calling with a sequel. The number on the table was staggering for its time: $10 to $12 million for Chris Tucker to play Smokey again in Next Friday. Ice Cube himself would later confirm that figure in public, saying the studio was ready to pay Tucker $10 to $12 million for the part. Chris Tucker said no. By Ice Cube's account, the reason was faith. Tucker no longer wanted to curse or smoke weed on camera. In his own interviews, Tucker described Smokey as something he simply did not want to represent anymore, and he pointed specifically to his discomfort with glorifying drug use on that kind of scale. Years later, in a GQ interview, he framed the choice partly as an artist wanting to move forward instead of repeating himself. Both versions land on the same fact. A man was reordering his life away from the very thing that had made him famous. The role that built his career was the first thing his faith asked him to give away. And here is what nobody expected. Turning down that money did not end his career. Hollywood assumed he would fade the moment he walked away from an easy payday. Instead, 1998 brought Rush Hour.
And you're not my brother.
I'm not your brother? All the stuff we've been through? Rush Hour 1, Rush Hour 2?
So show me your ass!
So yeah.
Opposite Jackie Chan, a buddy cop film that threw Tucker's rapid fire mouth against Chan's precision martial arts. Rush Hour earned more than $200 million worldwide, proving that his box office power never depended on Smokey or on profanity. His convictions had not cost him a thing. If anything, they pointed him toward the franchise that would define the next decade of his life. Rush Hour 2, in 2001, doubled down and locked Tucker and Chan in as one of the most bankable comedic duos in American film. And then, in 2006, came the contract that made history. $25 million for Rush Hour 3, released in 2007, making Chris Tucker the highest-paid actor in Hollywood for a single film at that moment. The same man who once turned down $12 million was now commanding more than double that, on his own terms, for a franchise built on a friendship instead of a caricature. That number is the hinge of the whole story. $25 million was the peak of everything the industry could offer him. By every rule Hollywood lives by, what should have come next was more. More films, more premieres, more headlines. What came instead was silence. And that silence is where the confusion began. After Rush Hour 3, The film roles slowed to almost nothing. The public appearances thinned out. No red carpet explanation. No retirement announcement. The silence itself became the mystery, and the internet rushed to fill it. Some people blamed a feud, insisting Tucker had burned bridges with directors or producers. Not one co-star, director, or insider has ever backed that up. Others said the offers simply dried up, that audiences had moved on. That theory forgets the $25 million contract sitting right in front of the quiet years, a number that does not belong to an actor whose phone stopped ringing. The most stubborn theory pointed at the tax office, and that one has a grain of truth in it. Chris Tucker really did face serious trouble with the tax authorities during this period, reportedly owing millions in back taxes. But that debt never forced him into a single role he did not want. He never grabbed a quick paycheck to make it disappear. He carried the weight and worked it down slowly, on his own timeline, without breaking the one rule he had built his career around. That rule was simple. Does this role line up with my faith, or does it not? Plenty of scripts crossed his desk in those years. Plenty of them came with enormous checks attached. Plenty of them he turned down quietly, with no statement explaining why, because he was living his faith away from cameras and reporters. The years off the film sets were not empty ones. Tucker went deep into church life. He did missionary work in Africa, traveling to serve communities a world away from any studio lot or premiere. He spent real time with his family, repairing what the non-stop grind of the Rush Hour trilogy had strained. And he stayed close to Michael Jackson through this stretch, a friendship built on the rare understanding of what extreme fame does to a person. Tucker was present in Jackson's life through his final and most difficult years, and he has spoken about being there simply as a friend. So walk through the real cost. $12 million refused for next Friday. Then an unknown but far larger pile of money refused across the following decade in every script that failed his one test. And the whole time, a tax debt running into the millions sat unpaid, a debt he could have erased with a single signature on almost any studio offer placed in front of him. He never signed it. He worked the debt down the slow way, choosing roles by their content instead of their paycheck, even as the public painted him as broke, or difficult, or finished. That is where the sacrifice becomes impossible to miss. Hollywood does not forget an actor who leaves on purpose, but it does not wait for him either. Every year Tucker stayed away. Some other comedian absorbed the opportunities that used to flow straight to him. He watched it happen and did not chase them back. The trips to Africa were never staged for a publicity campaign. The time with Michael Jackson, especially at the end, was loyalty, not a career move. Every choice in this stretch of his life carried him further from the center of Hollywood and closer to a life built on conviction instead of visibility. When Tucker did speak about his faith, he did it plainly, with no apology. In that 2014 Straight interview, he said Christianity forced him to dig deeper for his comedy rather than fall back on cursing, and that the discipline made him a stronger comedian. Ice Cube's public account, given in December of 2021, backed the story from the outside, confirming the studio had 10 to 12 million ready, and that Tucker turned it down over cursing and weed on camera. A documentary from the YouTube channel Comedy Hype traced the rest, his roots in the Pentecostal church, and his return to that tradition after moving back to Atlanta. Even his later GQ reflection, which leaned on the artistic angle, never stepped away from the faith underneath it. Put those accounts side by side, and the picture is complete. So what finally pulled him back toward a camera at all? Not the money, and not the spotlight. It happened slowly, and on purpose. In 2012, Chris Tucker took a supporting role in Silver Lining's Playbook,
It's official, man. They didn't convert me to my mental hygiene law admission status within 2/3 of the maximum length of my felony sentence. So I'm out. They had to let me go.
Hold the remote the way you were holding it before.
And now you're holding the remote?
And it's working. Your dad's a genius.
Shut up, like.
And Danny's a good luck charm.
Danny's from you. This is your house, so it comes down to you. You're the one.
Yeah, you're the one, Pat.
Superstition, Danny, I don't know.
Come sit down.
David O. Russell drama with Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence that drew heavy awards attention that season. It was nothing like the Rush Hour films, quiet, restrained, built around mental health instead of speed and noise. And it showed a man choosing his work with intention rather than grabbing whatever paid the most. Alongside a few careful film roles, Tucker went back to stand-up, the place where his faith and his craft meet most directly. He has said outright that being a Christian makes his comedy harder because it pushes him off the easy material, and that the difficulty is exactly what he enjoys about it. His specials in the years after his absence carried a different tone than his early work, still sharp, still driven by that signature voice, but filtered through the values he rebuilt in Atlanta. None of it added up to a full return to the top, and he never tried to force one. Chris Tucker never chased another Rush Hour just to reclaim the spotlight. And he has never once expressed regret over the years spent in church, in Africa, or beside Michael Jackson. His answer has stayed the same in every interview. Faith comes first, and any project that fights it gets turned down, no matter the number on the contract. Chris Tucker never disappeared from the places that mattered to him. He disappeared from red carpets, from studio release calendars, from the machine of constant visibility that Hollywood mistakes for relevance. He stayed fully present in his church, in his family, in the villages he served in Africa, and in a friendship that asked nothing of him but loyalty. The internet spent years asking what happened to Chris Tucker, and the truth was always simpler and harder than any scandal. He chose God again and again at the exact moments the world handed him every reason not to. He still values his craft. He still performs. He still shows up in a film now and then when the role fits the man he rebuilt. The $25 million contract was real, and so was the $12 million no, and both belong to the same man at 2 points, in the same reordering of a life. The question that lingers is whether the industry that created Smokey ever understood the person under the character, or whether Chris Tucker simply decided that their understanding was no longer the price of his piece. Other names on this channel walked right up to that same line, the one between what the industry demanded and what they believed. Chris Tucker just had the nerve to cross it first.